Housing TV Africa, your first in housing development broadcasting.
Welcome to Housing TV News at the top of the hour, coming to you from our studios in the nation's capital. I'm Joyce Sonwosu. Our top stories. Tinubu meets Ramaphosa at 11th Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission. Senate approves 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper. South Africa relaxes visa rules for Nigerian tourists, business people. 4 injured as Samsung building in Abuja collapses. On the foreign scene, South Korean MPS begin impeachment proceedings against President Yoon Suk-yeol after martial law reversal. We begin with national matters. President Bola Tinubu met with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at Tunwe's Cape Town on Tuesday for the 11th session of the Nigerian-South Africa Binational Commission. The session aims to strengthen bilateral relations between the two countries, focusing on various collaborative efforts in economic, security, and cultural spheres. The ongoing dialogue underscores the importance of the relationship between Nigeria and South Africa, with both leaders exploring new avenues for cooperation to address shared challenges and foster mutual growth. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced that tourists from Nigeria can now apply for a visa without submitting a passport. Ramaphosa spoke on Tuesday at the opening of the 11th session of the Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission in Cape Town, which President Bola Tinubu attended. Ramaphosa said South Africa has simplified its visa processes to facilitate travel for Nigerian business people and tourists with measures such as 5-year multiple entry visas. He also pledged South Africa's commitment to removing constraints on greater investment and addressing the challenges faced by companies in both countries. President Ramaphosa acknowledged the Nigerian government's reforms to further strengthen and foster a business environment that offers assurances to investors, including from South Africa.
Nigeria is a host to a number of South African companies that operate in Nigeria. South Africa has always been open for Nigerian businesses, and this has been reflected in a number of investment and operations established in this country as well. But there is much more that we need to do in this regard. We need to remove the remaining constraints to greater investment, just as we need to address some of the challenges that companies experience. We are encouraged by the actions that are being taken under your leadership, Your Excellency, to further strengthen and foster business environment in Nigeria that offers assurances to investors, including from South Africa.
In another development, the Federal Airports Authority of Nigeria FAN has again ordered the dismantling of manual search tables at the screening points in the international terminal of the Murtala Mohammed Airport, Lagos. This is just as the agency has ordered aviation security officials to apply strict measures in making sure that touts are kept away from the Murtala Mohammed International Airport, Lagos. FAN made this known in a statement on Tuesday, which was signed by the Director of Public Affairs and Consumer Protection, Obiageli Ora. The Managing Director of FAN, Olubumi Kuko, who gave the directive, mandated that technology be leveraged to reduce manual searches and improve interactions with passengers. Kuku noted that collaboration and intelligence sharing among agencies were also deemed essential for enhancing service delivery. Now to the Senate, where the Nigerian Senate has passed the 2025 to 2027 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Fiscal Strategy Paper for implementation by the federal government. The Red Chamber approved the expenditure framework with a total spending of 47.9 trillion naira and a new borrowing plan of 9.22 trillion naira, which includes both domestic and foreign borrowings. The passage followed the presentation of a report by the chairman of the Joint Committees on Finance and National Planning and Economic Affairs presented by Senator Musa Sani. The highlights of the approved recommendations of 2025 to 2027 Medium-Term Expenditure Framework and the Fiscal Strategy Paper include approval of a projected framework with an exchange rate of 1,400 naira to a dollar, the oil prices of $75 to $76 and $75.3 per barrel for 2025, 2026 and 2027 respectively.
Following the criteria in the overview of the framework for revenues and expenses, the 2025 Federal Government of Nigeria budget proposed spending stands at 47.9 trillion, of which 34.82 trillion was retained. New borrowings stood at 9.22 trillion, which constitute both domestic and foreign borrowings. Debt service was valued at 15.38 trillion. Pensions, gratuities, and retirees' benefits stood at 1.443 trillion, and fiscal deficit at 13.08 trillion be approved. Capital expenditure is projected at 16.48 trillion, which is exclusive of transfers. Statutory transfer stands at 4.26 trillion. Sinking fund is projected at 430.27 billion, also be approved. The committee recommends the respective figures for total recurrent non-debt at 14.21 trillion. Special intervention for current and capital is at 200 billion and 7 billion respectively.
During the debate, lawmakers demanded a reduction in the petrol prices against the backdrop of the commencement of the Port Harcourt refinery.
Of importance, I was part of the team that went to Port Harcourt to verify the veracity of otherwise as to whether the NNPC have started production. And I can gladly report, sir, it is commendable. No matter what you can say, you have to give kudos to the president, this particular president, for making these things happen in the last 27 years. When you go there, you know from the bottom of your heart that something is amiss in this country. You could see clearly there was an internal sabotage.
News of the Port Harcourt refinery coming on stream and the loading reported at the base gave me very sound sleep. But what I was expecting is a push down on the prices of PMS and all that. Maybe because they just started, the PMS is still hovering around 1,100 naira per liter. And if they continue loading in the next 6 months, I have every hope that the prices will continue to go down, the petroleum products. So I join Ningi in saying that the government has scored a very good breakthrough on the issue of refineries.
I think we should go ahead and approve this projection with a pinch of salt. But it also means that we in the National Assembly, particularly this very, very distinguished chamber, Mr. President, should have its eyes on the ball, so that by March, we should be able to see the ways in which the macroeconomy is moving, so that we can come back and put a brake or adjust certain parameters, depending on the way in which the reform process is progressing.
We see consistency, and these refineries are actually producing as they are projected to. then at least by the first quarter, we should be able to see some significant reduction of pressure. But my colleagues, in this MTF or in subsequent ones, or if we are to do an amendment, we need to find time to address the challenge of power generation.
Senate President Godswill Akpabio, in his remarks after the passage of the expenditure framework, commended members of the Joint Committee and other lawmakers for their legislative inputs leading to the approval of the 2025, 2026 and 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper.
The Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria has now passed the 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework, MTF, and fiscal strategy paper for implementation by the federal government of Nigeria.
The Senate, however, tasked its committees on finance and petroleum as well as gas to investigate allegations of withheld funds by the NNPC, including 8.48 trillion naira in petrol subsidies and $2 billion in unpaid taxes. The Northern Coalition Group for Senator Jibrin Barau, the Deputy President of the Senate, on Tuesday threw its weight behind the tax reform bills, saying it will address the decadence in the tax system of the country. Addressing journalists at a peaceful protest in front of the National Assembly complex in Abuja, the chairman of the group, Malam Tijani Kabiru Mohammed, called on federal lawmakers from the 19 northern states to support and ensure the speedy passage of the bills. Mohammed also advised those who are kicking against the tax reform bills to reconsider their stand and look into the bills again to ensure its passage.
That the tax reform bill is in order and Nigerians should work towards its perfection and also her progress.
Yes, sir.
For so long, we have lived on a decadence of tax reforms that has not produced anything good or meaningful to this nation. We from the north, we are categorically in support of this tax reform bill. And let me tell you one thing, to those who are for the past few days castigating Senator Jibrin Barau, they are nothing but enemies of the north, enemies of Nigeria, enemies of our generation, enemies of progress, and they are supporters of dislocation. We call on Nigerians here, as we have vowed, we shall continue to voice from one state to the other, from one region, from Middle Belt, from North Central, Northwest, Northeast. We shall canvass, and this bill, by the grace of God, shall see the light of the day.
Recall that the tax reform bills have been a subject of controversy, especially by lawmakers from the north, led by Senator Ali Ndume, who called for its immediate withdrawal for further consultation since the Governors Forum and traditional rulers are against it. The Nigerian Senate has confirmed the nomination of Lieutenant General Lufemi Oluyede for appointment as Chief of Army Staff. The confirmation followed the consideration of reports by the chairman of the Sense Committee on the Army, Senator Yaradua Abdulaziz Musa. Yaradua said the committee was impressed with the high level of understanding, achievements and excellence stated in the credentials of the nominee.
The Senate Committee on Nigerian Army, having diligently and meticulously conducted the screening of the nominee according to the Constitution, and being satisfied with his conduct, competence, experience, and educational qualification, hereby recommend to the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as follows: that Lieutenant General Olufemi Olatubosun Oluyede be confirmed as the Chief of Army Staff, having successfully undergone the screening process of this committee.
The Senate thereafter confirmed the appointment of Oluyede as substantive Chief of Army Staff.
Distinguished colleagues, will the Senate confirm the nomination of Lieutenant General Olufemi Olatunbosun Oluyede for appointment as Chief of Army Staff? Those in support of the confirmation say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination of Lieutenant General Olufemi Olatunbosun Oluide is hereby confirmed as Chief of Army Staff. Successes and progress, and do hope and pray that through this appointment, insecurity will be abated or minimized to the barest minimum, and Nigeria shall know peace.
Lieutenant General Oluyede was appointed to act as the Chief of Army Staff following the illness and subsequent death of late Lieutenant General Taoreed Abiodun Lagbaja. In Kaduna State, former Senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Shehu Sani, has called for redress over the increasing rate of out-of-school children in the northern region of the country, especially the girl child. The former senator made this assertion during a one-day girl child education program organized by key advocacy groups in Kaduna State.
There are a lot of issues to discuss about the girl child, but what is most important to me is the issue of education. It is sad that from the president to the last person in government, almost 80% of those holding position of authority and power today were a product of public education. People who attended government secondary schools and local education primary schools as it is in the north and the south grammar schools. But unfortunately, many of us today cannot take our children to the school we attended.
Other advocates expressed their frustration over the nonchalance towards the girl child education in northern Nigeria.
We need to encourage the girl child, telling her that she has the capacity and the ability to achieve anything she wants to achieve in life. The only problem or the only thing that will stop the girl child herself is herself. Because once she has a vision, we say that the vision is a future that she wants to attain. So we want to encourage the girl child from now, even at this age, that she can plan towards the future, and she's the only one that can ride the vehicle that can take her to that destination that she wants to.
We want to see the girl child be able to stand tall in the midst of other leaders of the world, because the United Nations make a very simple, act that it will be 30% inclusion of women in every status of leadership. But today, in our other side of the country, we discover that women, even when you go to a political space, women are not allowed to be fully involved. They are being scared of the stage. So we want to empower the girl child and the women, encourage them to stand tall. That they can do it. What a man can do, a woman can do it even more better. That is our message. They should not relent.
1,200 operatives of our Motaco Corps will be deployed to the 18 local government areas of Ondo State to maintain law and order during the Yuletide. Commander of our Motaco Corps in the state, Adetunji Adeleye, said this on Tuesday while parading 22 suspects for various crimes before journalists. Said despite the pressure of the Yuletide, Ondo State remains safe for residents and intending visitors.
We are parading 22 suspects that were arrested around the 18 local governments of Ondo State within the last 14 days. Across the board, we have 3 suspects arrested for kidnapping, 2 arrested for suspected robbery. We have burglary and stealing of household items, burglary and stealing of electronics, conspiracy, burglary, and stealing. Ondo State Amotekun Corps is deploying 1,200 men in the 18 local governments of Ondo State to ensure peace and tranquility all through the festive period.
Moving on to Ogun State, where the state government has challenged youths in the state to take advantage of the new opportunities in the creative industry and technology to develop their innate and God-given talents for self-reliance, job creation, and socio-economic development. The Special Assistant to the Governor on Tech Innovations said efforts are being intensified to catch up with the emerging technology and the creative industry.
World Bank says that the creative industry in Nigeria can spin over 4 million jobs annually if it's properly harnessed. But how much of that harnessing are we doing? If you watch African Magic Yoruba, you realize that over 85% of movies that are aired on African Magic Yoruba are shot here in Ogun State. But how much of investment do we have to keep that as an economic multiplier here in Ogun State? That is how now, I don't even need to put drums, I don't need to put shekere, I don't need to put all of that together to even make music. Dr. Paul, am I right? So Dr. Paul is going to be joining me any moment from now to take us on that exposition into how technology and innovation is changing the face of creative industry. And many of you here, I know you are either in school or you have achieved one degree or another. How can we begin to position you for that next growth, that next leap in your career? I have personally read the details of registration of some of us that are here.
The State Commissioner for Environment, Ola Oresoya, who represented the state governor at the occasion, also admonished participants to make use of those opportunities and initiatives being initiated by the government to develop their talents.
We can actually bring the younger ones on board for this. And why are we in Ogun State? Ogun State, many of the people who have been talking here are from Ogun State. And I can tell you, the greatest asset we have in Ogun State is the human capital. The greatest asset in Ogun State is the human capital. And I can go on and I can tell you about the greatest artists in Nigeria are from where? Ogun State. The greatest politicians in Nigeria are from where? The greatest footballers in Nigeria are from where? I can go on and tell you all about this. Ogun State, even those who are managing Lagos, which I was one of them before. All of us, 3/4 of people in Lagos are from Ogun State. So there's something in you, the younger ones from Ogun State. God has endowed every indigenous of Ogun State with a talent. There's something in you. You just have to be creative. Don't bury that talent. Don't bury that talent. I know what we're having today is just a trigger to so many other things that are going to come up. We're going to have it in a bigger way. And we are going to be able to reach out and be able to incubate this. Sportsmen, look at the great people who are giving beautiful names to Nigeria in sports today. They're all from Ogun State. Even in chess, the greatest chess player is from Ogun State. Everybody is here.
Speakers also took turns to challenge youths on creativity, dedication, and utmost sense of responsibility.
You are the architects of a future driven by imagination and innovation, and your imagination can only be your limit. And you will need skills to survive and to compete in this environment. Every young person at least will have, I suggest, about 3 or 4 skills. It's not enough that you've been to university, but you need a skill set to survive and to navigate these times. But remember, it's not enough to master tools or trends. You must ground your work in purpose, passion, authenticity. Our heritage, our stories, and our unique perspectives are powerful assets that the world is eager to experience. So you start local and you go to global. And what's the currency that you are going to spend when you get there? Your culture. Don't forget that. To excel in this rapidly evolving world, embrace collaboration, invest in continuous learning, and be fearless in experimenting with new ideas. The challenges may seem daunting. Dedicate yourself to excellence, and the rewards will follow. Take the technology, but use it positively, and concentrate on moving forward, and don't be distracted by get-rich-quick schemes.
Innovation. When TK was mentioning all the things that he had used, computers and all of that, some of you were thinking, at his time there were no apps like this. So we have apps now. So what I want to tell you is that innovation is anything that you use to improve anything that you do. Most of the things that I say, if you need to write it at the back of the paper, you can write it and keep it. Innovation is anything that you use to improve anything that you do. Phones, your tabs, apps, all of them are used to achieve anything that back in the days when somebody says, send me the letter, scan it, we'll go and be looking for a scanner. These days, you take your phone, scan, and send. That is innovation, and that's using a phone. Sometimes you say, I saw one lady one day saying that she wants to quickly rush somewhere to go and scan something at a business center. I said, what phone do you use? She said, iPhone. I said, scan it now. He said, no, they say scan. They say scan, not photo. But in any case, there's social media. If you are in the creative industry and you still have a page that has only 2 pictures, and the pictures have nothing related to the business that you do, you have failed. A lady saw me some time back and said, oh, bros, I want you to buy some properties. I said, hey, are you into real estate? She said, yes. I said, what's your page? She gave me the page. I went there. 2 posts about houses. The rest, she was taking selfies and all kinds of pictures that had nothing to do with her business.
Now to Lagos State, where the state governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu on Tuesday signed the Lagos State Electricity Bill 2024 into law, setting the stage for a power supply system aimed at providing reliable electricity to residents. The Lagos State Electricity Law 2024 is a comprehensive plan by the Sanwo-Olu government to address long-standing challenges in the energy sector. The law was designed to lay a robust foundation for economic growth, fostering industrial growth, improved quality of life, energy equity, economic prosperity, and environmental sustainability. Speaking during the signing ceremony, Sanwo-Olu charged all relevant stakeholders to work together for the full implementation of the law. The signing of the bill at Lagos House Ikeja was witnessed by Deputy Governor Dr. Femi Hamzat, Chairman of the Lagos State House Committee on Energy and Mineral Resources, Honorable Sabiru Oluwa, Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Lawal Pedro, Commissioner for Energy and Mineral Resources, Biodun Ogunleye, as well as members of the State Executive Council and Lagos State House of Assembly. News stories from the build sector are up next. Stay with us.
Get credible and authentic housing news at your fingertips by downloading the Housing TV mobile app. You can also join the African International Housing Show live from across the globe through the Housing TV mobile app. The mobile app features live streaming and trending housing news. You can locate the AIHS venue via the app, network with AIHS seasoned speakers, and live chat with exhibitors. You can also order house or building materials at AIHS via this app. Download the Housing TV mobile app now from the App Store and Google Play Store. And don't forget to click on the notification button. Available for both iOS and Android users. Housing TV is also on Star Times, channel 149 decoder.
Glad to have you join us back on Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Now to the build sector. A section of the Samsung building under construction at Banex Junction, Aminu Kano Crescent, Wuse to Abuja, collapsed on Tuesday, leaving 4 people injured. According to Nkechi Issa, head of public affairs at the Federal Emergency Management Department, the incident occurred when the penthouse of the 3-story building collapsed during casting. Issa stated that no life was lost to the incident, but 4 out of the 10 construction workers on site sustained minor injuries and have been taken to the Wuse General Hospital for treatment. Reacting to the incident, the Assistant Director General of the FCT Emergency Management Department, Engineer Abdulrahman Mohammed, appealed to developers to adhere to the building code. He also urged developers always to ensure on-site safety. Recall that the Samsung Plaza was burnt after a fire incident in November 2023. According to the FCT Fire Service, the inferno resulted from welding activities near a pile of empty and combustible cartons. To wrap up Housing TV News at the top of the hour, on the foreign scene, in a dramatic turn of events, South Korean lawmakers have initiated impeachment proceedings against President Yoon Suk-yeol following his controversial and sudden declaration of martial law, which was swiftly overturned after intense opposition from both parliament and the public. Yoon's martial law declaration, announced late on Tuesday, cited the need to safeguard the country from North Korea's communist forces and to eliminate anti-state elements. However, the president's decision, which harkened back to South Korea's military-backed past, faced immediate resistance. Within hours, a majority of the National Assembly MPs gathered to block the declaration, voting down the move in a resounding 190 votes. MPs from Yoon's ruling People Power Party also sided with the opposition, including 18 of his own party members, highlighting growing discontent within his rank. A new report from Yale's School of Public Health, supported by the U.S. State Department, has revealed alarming details about Russia's systematic program aimed at Russifying Ukrainian children. According to the research, Russian presidential aircraft and funds were used to transport 314 Ukrainian children from occupied territories to Russia, where they were stripped of their Ukrainian identities and placed with Russian families. The report, released on Tuesday, suggests that this operation was part of a Kremlin-funded effort to forcefully assimilate Ukrainian children into Russian culture. The research highlights the early months of the war in Ukraine, where these children were taken from their homes. However, Reuters was unable to independently verify the findings of the Yale report. That's the much we can take on Housing TV News at the top of the hour. Before we go, a quick recap of our top stories. Tinubu meets Ramaphosa at 11th Nigeria-South Africa Binational Commission. Senate approves 2025 to 2027 medium-term expenditure framework and the fiscal strategy paper. South Africa relaxes visa rules for Nigerian tourists, business people. 4 injured as Samsung building in Abuja collapses. On the foreign scene, South Korean MPs begin impeachment proceedings against President Yoon Suk-yeol after martial law reversal. For more news in the housing sector, subscribe to Housing TV Africa on YouTube and follow Housing TV Africa on all social media platforms. Download the Housing TV Africa mobile app on Google Play Store and Apple Store. My name is Joy Somoso. Thanks for watching.